fuck all these social media platforms. But hopefully, let's just hope the Nazis don't go to Letterboxd.
Welcome back to Fade to Black, a podcast hosted by OMG Studios Philly, where we talk about black movies with black people. Today, we're talking about William Greaves' 1968 film, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm. What is this film about?
We are not trying to take the film away from Bill Greaves.
It's not merely an experiment. It's an experiment that's culminating in a film. Now, I didn't read the concept of it.
Take it easy. What?
It's going very well.
It is not. You know it.
The way to make the script better is to first of all drop the euphemisms. You talk real language.
For all anybody knows, he's directing this whole scene.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, Fade to Black podcast. It's me again, David Dunnington, your host, co-hosted by founder of OMG Studios Philly, Sunny B. Rose. Today, we're going to talk about a weird film today that's about, it's about not knowing what's real. Today we got the homie James Izlar. James, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm having a good day.
James, introduce yourself. What do you do?
Sure. I'm James. I'm a photographer, multimedia artist. I do a bit of everything, but I like to focus on like documentary, but in sort of a surreal aspect. So like the last project that I like fully came out with was about like interviewing people, talking about their lives, their past, present, futures, while just like playing around with different exposures and things like that to sort of make it like have this dreamlike aspect. I love doing that kind of stuff.
And where can people find your stuff? Just like, even if it's on your Instagram, like where's a place people can find you?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, JCIZLAR. Got my website, jamesizlar.com. Twitter's for my close friends. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll go back on Tumblr. That seems like it's coming back out there. But
James, it's funny what you just said about like the experimental doc stuff, because I just assumed you'd like this movie, but it seems like it's perfect. I am 6 for 6 for perfect picks for these guests. James, describe what we watched and what we're going to talk about.
You were spot on. Because as soon as I read like the description for this movie, I was fully in. So. I want to say, I hope I say the name right. It's Symbiopsychotaxiplasm.
Close.
Symbiopsychotaxiplasm. Yes. How do I describe this movie? So essentially, the way I've been describing it to my friends is that you have these 3 different film crews. You have the main crew. It's filming these scenes from a relationship falling apart. Your simple thing. And then you have another film crew filming this scene. Then you have a third film crew that's filming the entire process all together. And so you're having all 3 crews and the actors clashing together at every single moment, just trying to take control of the film while you have the director, Will Greaves, just sitting back, smiling, laughing, enjoying himself. I love this movie a lot. And I really want to watch it again. I was smiling and like my mind was blown the entire time. Just how he got away with this.
Yeah, it's definitely a good description of the film. So yeah, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm came out in 1968, I think. Directed by William Greaves, filmmaker and documentarian. He was most known for this. He also had a show called The Black Journal, which was just like a kind of like a black news, he had a show called The Black Journal, which was like an exclusive black news network or channel. He did a lot of cool stuff in the 1960s. This film is interesting because, like James just said, he's filming these, what he's telling them test footage of all these different couples arguing and having these very intense, very personal arguments. They're actors, they're not their real, but they're just having very intense conversations. And he is filming them, and then he wants someone else filming the crew, and then he wants someone else filming like everything else that's happening around them. And it becomes confusing for the crew, and they're getting so like frustrated that they behind closed doors, behind the director's back, they all are like meeting up, and they're like, is this what the hell is going on? Is this like, does he know what he's doing? Does he know exactly what he's doing? Was this all his plan all along? Is it just like he kind of knew what he was doing, but he's just kind of like in over his head? And the audience is thinking that. And it's kind of incredible just because this black guy in 1968 had these white people running around not knowing what the hell to do, and then made some beautiful art from it. It's also worth acknowledging that he's playing the sort of like character of himself, or of like a filmmaker. He's like purposely and like aggressively misogynistic, and like trying to get like filmmakers to shoot everything sexual, find something that's sexual, and it's about sexuality, and like he's kind of making everybody uncomfortable. And people are like, is that a thing too? Like, is he like doing that on purpose? And yeah, it's iconic in the cinema world.
I'm curious, do you really think that he's like playing a character of himself versus like that just being him?
I think that's because that's kind of like, especially from like the reading I've done afterwards, is like, that's kind of like, he's not like that in anything else. And it was also said, I don't know if it was said in the film or like in interviews afterward, but they were like saying that like he acts different when the camera's on in that film.
Yeah, I was about to say that. They said it a few times in their like discussions about him and about the whole project, and how he just like completely switches character as soon as the camera starts rolling.
And he's like wearing the same outfit all the time. Like, these are days and days and days he's wearing the same exact outfit. And like I don't know, I do think, like, you know, I'm sure he was his own way 60s problematic, but he was like, I feel like he was trying to make a statement there. Not to say he probably didn't have his own, you know, patriarchal views in his own 1968 man way, but it seemed kind of intentional.
Word.
At least in my opinion. Suni, what haven't heard much from you. What is your take on this experience? I feel like it's an experience, and I feel like I don't know, they showed it to us in film school, and I feel like a lot of aspiring filmmakers should see it, just to, you know, just learn how like film can be pushed.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts about it, because on one hand, I'm very interested in the idea of like viewing things from multiple lenses. Like, that is also something I've tried to play with in my own like filmmaking, writing, theater work too, of like, okay, here's the subject, which is interesting, but then there's also the process that feels more interesting, and then to understand how the whole world affects things. It also feels like to me a correlation with like double consciousness, of like knowing that you're a person, a soul inside of a body, and then now you're a black person, and now you're a black person in America. And the way that people see you is not the way that you're going to see yourself. The way that the whole world sees the situations that you're in is probably not the same way that you're going to see those things. And so to me, that's kind of what that third lens is the consciousness that's like, oh, did you notice the cops pulled up just because there's this one black man and here's a group of white people asking for the paperwork and they have it all, but like, why? Like, where did this begin? And it happened a few times. And also to the point of this being a thing he kept saying about sex and sexuality, but it feels like more of a conversation about power and maybe communication. Because like within the test couples, like it feels like there's these queer men who are in relationship with women as beards, essentially, and they're trying to just like push them away. Like the first woman was essentially being gaslit by this man. The whole time he's like, you don't understand what you're talking about. This is exactly what's going on. And she's like, I can see. I'm watching the way that you interact with other people. I watch the way you interact with me. And then for her to step off stage and try to have those conversations with the director, and he pushes her aside to also only talk to the men, feels, yeah, more about that misogynistic power quality than it did about sexuality. But also, like, how those two things are connected. Like, what is the difference between, like, a gay relationship and a hetero relationship, or like between like a bisexual man and his preference between women and men, or how he just interacts with them differently. And to the point of communication, I'm just also curious about, like, when everybody's lost and they're like, is this what he wants? Is this what's happening? He's not really telling us anything. Like, that's a conversation that you hear between directors a lot, is like, how much do you want to direct people who is just like looking for the thing to spark inspiration so they can put the puzzle pieces together themselves. And yeah, and that kind of feels like what the goal was, is just to have a bunch of puzzle pieces. So by the time we get to editing, it's piecing together what the story does for itself, and trying to like naturally let it unfold while he's like prompting in certain directions. But yeah, it feels less sexy and more just like manipulative, of trying to mold something without like having a spoken vision about it. Trying to like mold together multiple consciousness, I guess, multiple perspectives on the piece. Yeah, because he himself isn't the head editor, but he's still the assistant editor. So it's like, even on the back end, like, he still has some say, even though he's asking everybody else to like put their lens on it, and it's still his lens that is like the one that makes the final word on everything.
He's in the cutting room for sure.
Yeah.
To that point, like, the entire time I was comparing what people were saying about him during the process to what people say about like David Lynch, in the sense of like, you have two directors who are completely, you know, they have an idea of what they want in their heads, and they rarely tell anybody what it is. They just kind of give like very vague directions and just like, all right, go. And just seeing the response and like comparing it to like that one older actor, how he was treating Will Greaves, and how he kept trying to like put in his own input and try to like do all these really kind of rude quips the whole time to try to make it seem to try to like belittle the entire thing. And I was just wondering how it would be with another type of director that wasn't a black man, and how that relationship would change, and where you have like an already established person who's known for making like, I guess, quote unquote, weird, surreal, different, off-putting type of work, who's also a white man, versus a black man, a black creator, and what type of expectations people are looking for in that.
I was just gonna say, I think we talk about white mediocrity a lot, and like how much these Tom, Dick, and Harrys can like just have an idea and get away with it, and like there's so much money and attention that gets pumped in because you trust that this person is a genius, and then what? It's like Elon Musk himself is.
I was really about to say that.
Problems, yeah. He comes up with all the problems. He's like, in 50 years, this is going to be everything that everybody's doing. This is going to be the way that things work, and it's like he's trying to set up tools for a world that he is projecting that none of us actually live in. And because he's just like some good-looking white dude, not my words, but
like, make sure you clarify that.
Yeah, not me, but other people think that he is an attractive person that you just go along with. It's like the pretty privilege along with his white privilege.
That motherfucker ugly.
And so yeah, but let a black person do that. Let somebody who like has a vision for something, and just maybe not as articulate as like prescribing what it is that they're asking for, because that's not the process that they're going through, but that process isn't valued for this person versus somebody else. And I think also to have like all of these white people putting their lens and critique and ideas onto this person, when it feels like that's exactly what he's trying to do, is to kind of like provoke you into like, how would you respond to me if I was acting in the way that other people I see act as? So yeah, that.
Yeah, no, fuck that. Fuck like that idea of just like, yeah, 100% that if on set, like they'd be like, if it was some white dude, be like, oh yeah, he's really smart. Well, here's one thing. That actor treated him like shit. To the other crew's credit, like a lot of them, like you can see in the parts where they're alone with each other, like they all like this man. Like they all respect this man, so they're just like, what the fuck is going on? And the fact that they're like having like that woman's really like that lady was really defending this guy, and also didn't like the way they were talking to her. That was like, damn, this is the 60s, bro. Like they were talking to her crazy. Men were just on some shit. Yeah. What's your take on, like, first of all, Sonny, I think that's like a good point. Like, I think your point is like right on with like the whole power thing. And I think that whole aspect of like sex as a power thing and getting them to record this sex, like that 100% is part of that. There's that quote that's like, everything is about sex except for sex. Sex is about power, whatever. So yeah, I feel like that's in there. Yeah, I don't know. And it was just like weird. It's crazy that he was allowed to make this too. Just like, it's so fucking weird. Like weirder than just like Sorry to Bother You or something. Like just the fact that they have these like middle-aged white people arguing about abortions and stuff. Like what?
I mean, have you watched Nathan For You or The Rehearsal?
No, literally. But like those are real people.
But still, it's like HBO just gave this man $1 million budget to say figure some shit out, and even like as it keeps falling apart through his processes, he's just like, well, I'm just gonna slap money onto it and say that this was the job. Like the job is never to actually be good at something, but just to like present that this dude came in with a bunch of nonsense and isn't that nonsensical in itself. So I don't know. It feels like absurdism is its own genre, but like sometimes absurdism is to like prove a point, and then there's just like being absurd just to be absurd, and that's where you lose me.
Oh, so someone doesn't like Nathan For You?
I enjoy it. I think it's fun.
I love Nathan For You. The end of The Rehearsal I heard does get a little like whatever, but I haven't seen it. I only saw the beginning. That's what I've heard. How do we feel about, first of all, who was our favorite couple? I like the lady, I don't have a favorite couple, but my favorite actress was the lady who got pissed at him and like walked off set.
Yeah, I'm like, her and that other dude feel like they were the most consistent, so I guess they're the ones who
I guess that's
like,
true.
stick out to me the most.
That's true. How do we feel about the guy they talked to at the end?
I don't know. I felt like maybe it was just because it was just this type of thing, but it felt just very abrupt. Like it felt like I definitely love that they kept it in there, but I don't know. It felt like a very strange way to end it out, only because it just happened all at once, and like of course there's nothing else that necessarily led to it or that came out of it. It was just like this conversation that happened. But it was a really intriguing topic, and I feel like I've had conversations like that a lot just on the street. I don't know. It was a really intriguing conversation, and I had wondered about like I wonder if maybe they paid him for it, because I always think about like that sort of not exploitation, but in a way, yeah, exploitation, where you have like
It is.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have, people coming up and you're essentially making, maybe content is the wrong word, but like you're making something out of this interaction, and then you're probably never going to see this person again. So I don't know. I hope he got, at the very least, I hope he got paid for that, because it feels like there's way too much of a chance for him to be painted in the wrong light, especially like thinking about New York in that time,
Yeah, he probably wasn't paid. I'm just gonna assume that he wasn't.
Yeah. I feel like I don't remember the details of the conversation, but from what I do remember, it feels like part of this idea of perception and what people actually are and hold um, comes mixed in with this person because it's like he has a whole life story. Like he has places that he's traveled, things that he's learned, and like right off the back you might think that he's crazy, quote unquote, and you may just like brush him off, but like the more that you talk to him, the more you realize that his lived experiences speak to a larger part of like a human experience and a human consciousness. And he just kind of like spews it, but also like he has this very flirtatious nature with him because it's something about like wanting to be connected to people and like feeling different types of connections all at the same time and not holding back anything to them. It feels like very unfiltered emotion and stream of thought. And that feels like it comes from when you have no walls, when you no longer care about perception, because like there's no privacy, there's no private place for you to like hold all your thoughts, hold all your urges and feelings. Like any chance that you get is the time to like exude yourself, because when else would it be? Like every person you meet feels like it's very in passing, so like what is the impact that you can leave? What can you say that like feels like it actually draws some sort of connection? Like you can drop a nugget or you could maybe gain something. Like to get hit on by the catcallers of the streets constantly is always a bit scary, but to them it's like, what if it works? Like what if this is the one person who's actually just going to respond to my human urges? And like that's gross, but at the same time it's like you can kind of see where the thoughts are coming from. And so that's what it feels like ending on him is about. Is just like, here's a person who is just like telling you everything that's on their mind, and he's trying to capture people like their background thoughts, the conversations that they're having on screen, and then what do they think about it off screen? How do they interact with us about the telling of the stories? What does that say about them? And then what about this person who has no idea what's going on and is just literally being themselves and actually offering all of the thoughts and participating in the conversation without being prompted? It's like that's kind of what he was looking for other people to do, and then here's somebody who actually did it.
Yeah, that was the one true time where I was really just wondering like what's going on in Will Greaves' head right now? Like, are you interacting with this man as like you, William Greaves, or are you interacting with this man as a director trying to figure out how you're gonna view this later on in the editing room, how this could be a part of your film, or like what you could do to interact with this man?
It feels like both.
Yeah.
And that's why he captures the whole thing, because it's like, who knows what we're going to get out of this conversation, but we'll find out in post.
Is he a genius, William Greaves?
Does he have the savant syndrome gene?
I'll say yeah. That's some pretty like I don't know. My man was on some shit. Shout out William Greaves. I don't know. And I also feel like this film is one of those films that like you show to people who are in film school or something, and it always like it's old, but like it awakes something new in people as like filmmakers. I feel like you just like see something in it and you're like, this is something, and like you want to talk about it. And it's one of those films where you're like, I know what this film, do you guys know what this movie is? I know this movie. Yeah. So look it up and watch it. I think it's on HBO. Because then you can tell your friends that you know this weird movie about meta narratives and shit. Took place in 1968. I cannot emphasize enough this took place in 1968, a very, very, very political year.
I just want to say also how brave he is to make this type of project, knowing that like it's all on film, it's all finite. There's a very slight chance that something's gonna fall apart, and so many things fall apart. Yeah. But just the fact that he's gonna capture all of this on film, on tape, and it's just gonna happen, and it is what it is such a like
And
brave thing to do.
And risk his like reputation.
Yes.
Because like he looks like an asshole, and like it could have just like he could have just got to the edit and like there was a lot of equipment failure, so like shit could have not been shit could have got exposed, or like it could have just all been for nothing, and everybody was just pissed at him. And I think that's part of the heart of it, is that like he was taking this crazy risk, and I don't know if all of those people liked him afterwards, but it's fine. Who cares? Where are they? I don't know. Sonny's like, people matter.
Yeah. I'm like, I always feel bad if working relationships ruin real relationships.
Yeah, and it's always awful, but like, I feel like it might have been one of those things where like, I mean, I don't know. I have to see if interviews later, but it might have been one of those things where like people were mad until they saw the film and they were like, nah, okay. But they were still annoyed about the whole situation, but they were like, all right.
What were the reviews like for this film? If anybody knows.
Well, I can look up reception right here. Well, I mean, it's on Criterion Collection, like, and it was praised in the New York Times, I believe.
During its time or later?
Yes. I believe, I mean, it's definitely something that's gotten a lot more like praise as it's gotten older. But I don't think it's always gotten like good praise from like the people who have seen it. I think it's one of those things where like it hasn't really. That's the other thing. Like it wasn't a huge movie, but like outside of the film community, like your general audience knows like documentaries like like Super Size Me or something like that, but they're not gonna know. Not all of them know like Casting John Benet or something like that. So it's not gonna reach that demographic, but it's definitely like a classic amongst like people who like high art. And yeah, it's got that. They're always talking about it in Criterion Collection. Like Black Star does like William Greaves seminars. We respect the name of William Greaves in this house.
Word.
All right, well, I don't have anything else to say about this. Y'all should just watch it. It's one of those things where like you should just watch that shit. It's not even that long. Coward.
Like you learned anything from it?
I think honestly it just more like it was more of like an educational thing for like, I don't know, just like different ways of making a narrative and like making a compelling movie. And like, I don't know, I was engaged in something very confusing and very like hectic, and it's very just like behind the scenes stuff, and it's not for everybody, but I don't know, I'd like with everything, or like with a lot of stuff that I bring here, it's just I'm more excited about like a new way of approaching something. And I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's there's nothing I like take away more like as like learned, but like I like the messages that are in there, especially what you've described.
James, what about you?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was necessarily so much as I learned anything new from it, so much as I just like found a whole new appreciation for like the filmmaking process and just how much goes into even just like the smallest indie film, and how much planning or not planning or just improvisation makes a world of a difference, and how much like preparation is needed. Because like even in like the few short films and things that I did either in school or outside of it, like I've always not hated the process, but just like the actual production of making a movie can just be so taxing. But like just the idea of
sucks.
Yeah, but like at the same time, it's still such a beautiful process. And like one of my favorite scenes was watching all of those kids come up just to like, they don't know what's going on, but they just want to see, they see a bunch of people with cameras and they want to see like a movie's happening. It's an exciting thing.
I love that part. I love those little black kids.
But then also,
How many of those kids, went into movie making or just like really got interested in movies in that sense? I don't know. That part was maybe the best thing about it all for me.
I was going to say, but even to that, there was like kids in there who were like, I'm not going to be around next year to see this come out. And that's what felt like really sad to me, and like part of why it was included, I assume, just because at what point do you like not see a future for yourself? Like, what is it that their everyday circumstances are that are telling them that they won't make it to see a movie next year? Yeah, and like what does if you were a grown person, if you grew up with that mindset and keep getting surprised every year that you keep making it, because believe me, that's me. I'm like, cool. I thought I was living life to 100 because I thought it was going to end a lot sooner than it is, so I don't understand. But yeah, if you get to that point, then you really start to like allow yourself to like philosophize. Then you're like, well, what started this? Like, what's really going on? What do people really see? Then I don't know. That's what was really interesting to me about adding that in there. But what do I feel like I learned? I feel like I keep learning that people really want very clear prescriptive instructions. As much as people want to be very creative and like say that they want to do whatever they want, they truly don't. People want to be told what to do, and if you have an idea like this where it is still to capture all of the process, then I'm like, you still gotta let somebody know exactly what's going on so that way they can help shape it in that way, because guerrilla filmmaking just takes a lot of resources, a lot of energy, and it's still gonna like put a lot of pressure on you at the very, very end to like just make something out of the thing that's happening. So I'm like, I feel like you gotta have something, a little tighter than just sex and sexuality to hold on to.
Absolutely. And I guess to all the filmmakers out there, if you're listening and you're young and stupid, any fuck up that happens on set is your fault. And you don't just be careful. The people get in big trouble about like, I don't know. There's a lot of legality in film that you don't know about until you're like in it. And yeah, people like, haven't eaten and all that stuff. Don't do that shit. Make sure people eat. Make sure people aren't hot or cold. Jesus Christ. Stop doing that dumb shit. Anyway, guys, get all your permits, or like, if you don't get a permit, just don't shoot somewhere where people are going to get arrested. Don't put your crew in danger. Your film's not that cool. I promise.
It'll be much cooler when you get a budget.
It'll be much cooler if people aren't arrested or hurt or pissed off and hate you. Don't let people hate you afterwards. It's not worth it. Final thoughts just on the movie in general, like recommend, you have any just what this left you with, what's your final, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Damn it.
Sure. Yeah. I can't recommend enough. I keep telling all my friends and all my film people about this movie. And I love when people play around with the idea of a narrative and sort of try to break that mold of a narrative and what even can be acknowledged as a film. And it's, again, just so wild to me that they're doing all of this stuff that like now you have your Nathan for Yous and all these people who are like praised as like breaking the mold with these types of things, when like we've been doing this in the 60s. Like
black people doing everything first.
Everything, no matter what, was always one of us at the very beginning, and I think that's beautiful and so great. So I can't recommend it enough. I'm probably gonna watch it again just to see what else I can get out of it.
My dad texted me that black people in The Simpsons predict everything. Well, this has been David and Suni and James. James, one more time, where can we find you?
Sure, JCIZLAR on Instagram, jamesizlar.com. Shoot, if you've got Letterboxd, JCI, show me those reviews.
Yo, I need more people on Letterboxd. I got Letterboxd and I don't be using it. I need to go on Letterboxd more. Fuck all these social media platforms. But hopefully, let's just hope the Nazis don't go to Letterboxd.
I'm sure there's a 4chan out there for them somewhere.
Yeah, they got a Letterboxd that are just like all over the new Black Panther. They're just like L L L L.
Nah, I'm gonna deal with them personally.
Let's all, yeah. Okay, one more thing of advice, just because we're in this moment, and we don't have to put this in here. If one of your homies is like, yeah, I think, honestly, Ye's on some, he's kind of smart, if you really think about, just starts fighting, just start swinging. Just start swinging. No arguing, just start committing violence. No, not this Black History Month. If one of your homies is humoring some Nazi shit, just fight them real quick. They'll be fine. It's okay. Listen, your friend will be better knowing that you love them and you don't want them to be a Nazi. Be like, hey man, I love you. I gotta beat the shit out of you because you're on some Nazi shit.
Thanks for listening, y'all. We got one more episode coming up after this, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And yeah, love you. Bye.